Morning. It's Wednesday, May 11th, and I'm here to tell you today that all those rumors about packing the Supreme Court are pure nonsense, and one must recognize right now that the Supreme Court has been packed. It has been packed with 6 Republican right-wing justices, and this court does not reflect what the United States is about. This court does not reflect what the people of the United States are about. This court interprets the Constitution in a way that our white supremacists believe it should be. And that is a terrible thing. The court is now acting like mostly white Christian and heavily rural population still exists in the United States. But that's not true anymore. The United States right now is urbanized, racially and religiously diverse. That's what the United States is right now, and it's becoming further that way. It's moving away from what a small majority of this country believes it should be. This country is terrified. Many regions that white supremacy is going to disappear. And everybody talks about the year 2045, when the actual numbers will turn against the whites. But that's beyond what we need to feel, beyond what the court should be doing. The court should recognize that the Constitution is a living, breathing document, and it is subject to interpretation. And one must also realize that those interpretations cannot be taken over by a political party. The court is not supposed to have any politicizing in its existence. It is supposed to judge things correctly, not with a Republican or Democratic stance. And we can see that when the rights of a group of people like women are about to be overturned. And abortion should probably not even be an issue. That should be totally up to the women and the men associated with that particular case. This is a private issue, and it's silly. It's silly to deem that conception is life. It's a religious artifact that was put into effect at a time when birth control virtually did not exist. So why do we have a court that is so out of touch with the majority of the people in the country? There's something wrong when a law is on the books and it affects 70% of the people the other way. Why are we in such a terrible situation? People was going to the court and they have a knowledge of the law and they are supposed to apply it properly. Not with their own predispositions or their own education. So while people talk about packing the court, I say it's already packed. And that has to change at some point in time. But there may come a time when if the Republicans remain in power or return to power, that they may end up getting 9 justices who come from a Republican leaning, and that would be a disaster. Then what would you say about politicizing the court? Never before in our history has the court been so egregiously wrong. If this court overturns Roe versus Wade and women's rights, what other rights is it going to take care of? Are we going to go backwards and reverse all the decisions that have come to protect the LGBTQ community? Is that going to happen? Are we going to go back to the 40s and the 50s before we had civil rights legislation? Realize that slavery ended after the Civil War, yet it wasn't until 100 years later that we had civil rights legislation. Is that type of legislation going to disappear now? The court must recognize that because of these actions, they are putting their lifetime appointments in jeopardy. Many are talking now about term limits and ages so that it will no longer be available to a Supreme Court justice as a lifetime appointment, but maybe only a term limit, maybe 20 years, maybe an age limit, maybe 75, maybe 80. There'll be no longer 30 years of the same justice. That can happen. That can happen if the country gets fed up with the way the court behaves. And this court is leading the way to those changes because it is so politicized. Politics has no business in the court. It doesn't matter how you feel religiously or how you feel politically. That is not how you interpret the law. You interpret the law the way it's supposed to be interpreted, without any partisanship, any different way. It's not about your feelings on the court anymore. It's about doing what's right. It's not about returning us 100 years backwards. And that's the way it's going now. We are kowtowing to a part of this country that is disappearing. The rural populations are being reduced. And that's a terrible thing. But that's the way it is. It's what is known as progress. And the court is fighting progress, fighting the makeup of this country. And they are eventually going to lose that battle. So it's time for them to look ahead and realize what the rights of people are. People are entitled to those rights. And you can't curb them because a minority disagrees. So that's what I'll leave you with this morning. Terrible situation that exists in the United States. Hopefully, the court will make some reasonably good decisions in the near future. But I really doubt that. However, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.